Well, hello again. This is Buck Benny speaking. Welcome to another Talk Tuesday. For this Talk Tuesday, I want to focus on, we're going to cover kind of a lot of ground, but it should be fun. We're presenting some shows I've never presented before, so these are going to be brand new to folks. And not even my podcast has had them listed on there yet. But I thought we'd focus today on a podcast I have that's called Strange New Worlds of Dimension X minus one. And it's called this crazy name because Strange New Worlds is the new Star Trek TV show. We wanted to cover that. So we do reviews of that show. And we're going to be playing you a review that I've never played yet. And it's for episode number 9 of season 2, which is a musical episode. And so we're going to have that second. And so that's going to be coming up here, where my team reviews that episode. And before that episode is going to be a video that I created to go along with Christina Chong's song. And it's called Twin Flames, is her single, the first single she had. And I did this video to accompany it that is from Star Trek episode 3 of season 2, which is her character falling in love with James Kirk. And so it's just kind of a neat, I figured out a way that I thought, okay, we could tie in her song to this. She's a great singer, and she's got a few songs out there for sure, an AP. And she sings, of course, in the episode Subspace Rhapsody, which is episode 9 that we're going to play for you. And that we're going to play for you. We're going to review for you. But at the exact same time, she was so smart. At the exact same time the episode's getting released, she's releasing her singles both before and after the episode gets released. So people are looking for music from the episode, and they probably bumbled into her music, which is great. I like it when people have synergy and create something unique. And after I did these 2 videos, she tweeted me that she really liked them, and she didn't think somebody could make 2 of her songs go to that one episode. And so she was really impressed with that. So anyway, so we have, like I say, Twin Flames, which is just kind of a love song at the beginning, and about 2 people that are, well, twin flames, like it says. And that's pretty much what those characters are in that episode. Then we'll go into talking about the episode number 9. Number 9. We'll discuss that. And then from there, at the end of it, we'll have her second music video, which is No Blame. And that one, I think I did a better job on, and actually tells more of a story from beginning to end. And but it does give away some of the plot points to episode 3 of Strange New Worlds from season 2. So if you haven't seen it yet and you don't want to get a plot point spoiled or anything, if you haven't seen the episode, you'll probably watch the video and won't connect anything together anyway. But I think you'll enjoy the video. So there's that. And then before that, we are going to start airing Superman over there, the Superman serial from 1948, over on my Strange New Worlds of Dimension X podcast. And I haven't started doing that yet, but this is the first episode. So right after I'm done talking, we'll get right into us introducing my team, introducing the Superman first episode of Superman. And it's his origin story. It's kind of fun to watch how they do this. And the any flying scenes are animated. So you have real live action people, but then all of a sudden when he flies or does some kind of superheroic action, he might change into a cartoon all of a sudden. And it's interesting the way they do this. And it worked way better than I thought it would. So a fun thing to tune into and watch. It's short, 20 minutes long or something, even less maybe. And then if you like either of these and you'd like to, we do over on that podcast, we do Suspense, which is a great radio show. We do just any kind of action, adventure, science fiction radio shows. So we have Gunsmoke over there. We have from the radio show that we play. We have yours truly, Johnny Dollar, over there. Escape, which is a great radio show. So it gives you a chance to hear all those things and experience that. In my show notes, you will see that I'm going to include a link for that at the very top of the show notes to my podcast. And so you can check out other episodes. And for the, like I say, this is the 9th episode of Star Trek Next Generation, Strange New Worlds that we'll be reviewing. The other 8 are already out there that we reviewed of the second season, and then the entire first season's out there too. So if you want to go back through my old episodes, you can listen to those if you like. Anyway, without further ado, enjoy these episodes. Come join us over on my Strange New Worlds of Dimension X -1 podcast, and we'd love to have you there. And join us here every week too. So we'll see you next time, and have a great Talk Tuesday. Well, hello again. This is Buck Benny speaking. I'm joined with my friend Bob, my friend Jim, and we're talking about, we just drew this out there because I just thought I'd be kind of interesting to chat about. This is the 1948 Superman serial that was played at theaters, cliffhanger sort of format, 15 episodes. This is episode 1 that we'll be talking about. And who knows, maybe we'll talk about other episodes or maybe not. I don't know. But I just thought, I bumped into this last week or something and just thought, oh, it was a decent looking copy of it and everything. And I thought, well, I'm pretty sure that they had never seen it. And because I had never seen it. So I'm going, well, if I haven't seen it, chances are I'm a bigger Superman fan than these guys. So, but I figured we could chat about it. And so they indulged me and watched it and are willing to talk about this. I'll throw out one thing. It does have Superman is played by Kirk Allen in this. This is the first live action Superman of any kind. It's from 1948, like I say. A couple years later, they started making the television series with George Reeves, who Bob has as his background if you're watching this. The original in the television series in 1950, I think, what's her name? Coates. Phyllis Coates played Lois Lane. And I love Phyllis Coates' Lois Lane. It's one of my favorite Lois Lanes. But she was only in the first season. Then she quit. Apparently, I don't know. One of the reasons, anyway, is she thought the logic was kind of stupid, that she thought she looked like an idiot, not knowing the difference between Superman and Clark Kent, realizing they're the same person, because he just has glasses on for one, and he takes his glasses off, and all of a sudden you can't recognize him. Bob, take your glasses off for a minute.
What? Where's Bob?
Where's Bob? Bob's gone. It's somebody else entirely.
Oh,
Bob, back. Oh, Bob's back. Okay, good to have you back, Bob.
Didn't she eventually move to Burlington and opened up a factory? Yes. I'm pretty sure she did.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Anyway, so from the second season on,
was Noelle
Neal took over, and she is also plays Lois Lane in this serial. So I think it was a pretty smart idea that they went back to Noelle Neal, because then it makes a connection between this serial and the Superman show. I like her hair and her look and everything better about her in the serial. I think I like her character more in the serial. The way they play her just 3 years later or whatever, when she comes back and plays, well, 3 years, I guess 5 years later or something, when she's in the
is what it says.
Superman series, doesn't do as much for me. But I think it's just the way she's written doesn't do much for me. So anyway,
I thought I recognized her.
Yeah,
her, because it was like, okay, now she seems to like
I've seen her before. Yeah,
it seems like she's like the one that I saw from the Superman shows. Yeah, so.
But she's the only one that came across, kind of like Radar in MASH. From the MASH film, he was the only one that came across.
Came over to After MASH.
No, he was in After MASH as well, I think. No, he wasn't. Was he in After MASH? Yeah, I think he was. But anyway, So, but he was in MASH and he was in the film MASH. So,
Well, then they had the Hawkeye spinoff that was called Sour Mash.
actually, they did have a Hawkeye spinoff.
And there
Right?
was the Halloween version,
With-
Monster Mash.
Wasn't that the one with Pernell Roberts where he played a version of Hawkeye or something
Pernell
years
Roberts.
later, supposedly?
Yeah, when he was older.
Forget what series that was, but it was a successful series, but didn't seem anything like Hawkeye we knew. Anyway, having said that, let's move on. So let's just go around and just see what you guys thought of this coming in it fresh. And I know some things
Are we
are gonna
allowed
come up.
spoilers?
Yes, I would
Yeah, I mean,
say there's nothing hugely
nothing-
spoilery in this thing that you can really do, I don't think, because everybody knows about Krypton. And oh, spoiler, Krypton blows up at some point in this. So let's go with Bob first. Bob, what were your kind of general impressions of this, or were you surprised? I mean, you'd never seen it before. Did you even know it existed?
No, I was really surprised that it existed at all. And actually, weirdly, I actually enjoyed it a lot, even with the weird special effects.
Yes.
Special effects are take a little bit of you got to suspend your disbelief just a little.
A little. It's definitely putting that of anything I've ever seen, this taxes your suspension of disbelief, and you can just totally go with it. But the thing is, it's based on a comic book, and it's okay, because what they essentially did, which I think was a gutsy thing to do, they're just like, we can't do this. What we need to be able to do, by having him fly, by having rocket ships flying around, by having worlds blowing up, all of that, we don't have the budget to do any of that. So we're not even going to attempt it. All we're going to do, anything we can't do, we're going to animate. And so all of a sudden, it turns into a cartoon for a little bit. And then it stops being a cartoon and it's real again. And then it goes back to being a cartoon. So anytime an effect is going to happen, it's going to be all of a sudden turned into a cartoon.
I like how
they weird.
Mix them together too.
Yes, and
so
they mix
have the
them
live
together.
action.
Yes, but they don't actually interact.
Yeah,
because they can't. That whole technology of being able to touch something that's a cartoon. So it's always like a background thing or something that they don't that's happening behind them, or they might be able to see it, act like they're seeing it, but they can't really interact with it. It is not Roger Rabbit. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
But I think it makes it it gives it a, I don't know, I want to say nostalgia, but it's not nostalgia because we're watching it for the first time, but it makes it kind of its time, kind of pleasant, kind of where you go, oh, that's kind of cute that they did it that way. So it did not take me out of it as much as I thought it would. So, and the rest of it's done all right. I mean, I'm okay with it. For years, when I'd seen the TV show, the first episode where they have the Krypton, it's very much like this in the television show, the first episode. And I thought, okay, where did they get Sarah and Eben Kent? Because that was his parents' names were Martha and Jonathan, in forever that I knew. But that might have been established after that, because this is based on the TV show was first episode, you could tell, was based on this first episode, this first series but then this was based on the radio show, and on the radio show is where they give him those names. So I don't know if they would have always done that or not, but anyway. But over to I don't know, Jim, give us what your thoughts.
I'm with Bob, but I actually enjoyed it, and I do think it's a little bit of nostalgia in that, even though, like you say, we hadn't seen it, it's just these old early TV shows where they didn't have all of the technology and everything else, and so they just have to put this little cartoon rocket flying across the sky and those things. So it made it a lot more interesting. I think it was more interesting than if they had actually animated or put a rocket and it looked like a real rocket. I think this is even better, because when you see those really kind of cheesy side, even if you could tell it was a real model,
Yeah,
So
exactly.
that's like a step up from this, but still just, that or this, these guys are even one lower than that. But, but just the cheesy side, the cheesy special effects that they have and stuff, it makes it enjoyable to watch,
Yes.
and it's a fun time. There were a few things that kind of got me confused. So they're saying Krypton is a planet of supermen.
Yes. That doesn't hold water with what we know, right? So
Yeah, and so I always thought it was the yellow sun versus his sun,
mhm.
and then the whole thing got me thinking, and I'm thinking it's like, okay, so it's like the gravity thing, right? Here he's much stronger because the sun is weaker, not as strong or whatever.
Yeah.
But how does that give him X-ray vision and super hearing and stuff like that? How does the sun make that happen?
It's interesting. You were thinking the exact same thing I was thinking. I was like, I kind of like the original description of Superman. Okay, faster than a speeding bullet. Okay, so this guy's on a planet that has less gravity than his planet did. He can move really fast. His legs are like really strong because they're set to be
Yeah,
working on his planet, so that works. Able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. So that means you can't fly. It means you can jump really, really high. That kind of makes sense, right? But like you say, X-ray vision, where does that work itself in? It really doesn't make a whole lot of
All
sense.
that stuff.
Invulnerability, the bullets bounce off of you because you're made so dense because your planet had so much gravity that
yeah,
even that kind of works. But the what they've said over time, originally it was more just kind of the gravity thing and the fact that we had a yellow sun versus the red sun that Krypton supposedly had. But then they started saying, well, because it's the yellow sun, it does things to him. It gives him strange powers, like uh, his vision to be able to, the heat vision and the X-ray vision and that sort of thing. But as they added more things, they realized they added too many things because at some point in the 1950s, I think he ends up with super ventriloquism, where he can make people think he's somewhere else because he can cast his voice, and that's all these things, all these extra powers they give him start to be like too much, and they realize that, and they've forever been trying to scale him back and be like, but the problem is one writer needs him to be able to push and move the planet, another writer needs him to be able to fly to another galaxy quickly, and another writer needs, so whatever serves the plot sort of becomes it, and then they're like, okay, does that, now he's got this new power that we didn't know before, kind of like Flash and the Speed Force. They make this thing where now he can travel through time, which they didn't originally have, and they're like, and now shouldn't he do time travel all the time, or shouldn't he? I don't. And so yeah, it becomes weird. So
Batman, yeah, Batman doesn't have any of those powers. He's cool.
and they never gave him more powers over time. He never got super ventriloquism, which I think all of us should have. That's a great
I
power.
think he needed that one though.
Yeah.
Batman's basically a guy in a Halloween costume.
Do you watch the clip that I sent from College Humor?
I did
Batman?
not get a chance to, but Jim did. So there you go. Jim, what did you think of his clip from College Humor?
It was good.
Yes. Is it something where it's appropriate sharing about, or was it inappropriate?
Use it to eat up some woman's porridge. I've used it to cut Bane's arm off. Basically, Superman wants to team up.
Oh, I know which one you're talking about. I've seen that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that is a funny representation of Batman. And it's like the ultimate dark Batman sort of thing. So yeah. So I love it.
That's the one where Commissioner Gordon takes off his glasses and he goes, Batman thinks he's a deer. Where's Commissioner Gordon? Oh, you're back.
Very much. Yes. Yes. So but that's great. We all enjoyed this. So I was not knowing that if that would be the case or not. So I'm glad we all enjoyed it. That was good. I think people will enjoy this. I think you just have to take into context when it was made. I like his Superman.
Yeah.
I think he goes a little extreme because, again, it's taken off of the radio show. And on the radio show, all they had to do was their voices. So you had your Superman, who was played by one person, Bud Collyer, and Bud Collyer, they picked him because he could have his voice talk like the whole time, like he's in a, he'd be like, Lois, so what are we going to do? I don't know, Lois. And then he'd go, this looks like a job for Superman. You know, he'd get that lower register, and so he could do both. And so they used him. And so in Kirk Allen, in playing that, is trying to pick up on that whole thing. George Reeves, in his version, doesn't really do that as much. He does a little bit, but it's a lot more the same, the voice. So,
well, it's part of his disguise. I mean, just taking the glasses off wouldn't disguise him if he had the same voice.
yes.
So it's the having the deeper voice and no glasses that it enables him to be in disguise.
I think they explained that somewhere, that he's like, when he becomes the alter ego, he like can mess with people's minds. That's somewhere they explained that.
I'm sure they did. I mean, different writers are always trying to explain that stuff, or that he changes the molecules in his face so they look a little differently, but they don't want to present that on the page because they don't want us to get confused or something. I don't know. They've explained it lots of different ways, but
all he had to do was wear a little mask, just a little,
and that would have done it. Yeah,
little mask like this on his eyes, and nobody would have recognized him.
Well, just and been Robin.
Yeah.
So that would work. Anyway, but what did you think about this story? I mean, the Krypton piece, I like I thought it was interesting when they showed the terrain of Krypton. It was like these just little, they're talking about like how in the narration is like, oh, it's all spiky and angular and everything, and yet they're showing just like piles of rocks, and you're like, okay, well, there'll be rocks. And then right about the time when you're going, this doesn't look like the narration, then they go, and then there's a plateau with the city on it, and then they show the city sort of in a still shot of the space age city, and that's more passable. And then we get to see the folks in their costumes, and their costumes looked like probably they grabbed the costumes from like Flash Gordon serial from 20 years earlier or something, and they
I got freaked out a little bit when Jarrell's in the room talking to the other scientist, and he had his arms inside. His head looked huge, like it just like looks so weird. I'm like, looks so weird.
Well, and I like how at the end of his meeting, where he's telling them the planet's gonna be destroyed and all this other kind of stuff, and then they vote not to do anything, and as he's leaving the room, then they're all just start laughing at him.
Yes.
It's like what?
Well, it does. It's so funny because when I was a kid, I looked at those scenes and was like, oh my gosh, how would they not try and save their planet and so forth? But now I look at us with climate change and everything, and so many people are doubting this and doubting the scientists. Oh, it never, I mean, it truly was a kind of a universal thing. When scientists present bad information that's really hard to figure out how you're going to fix, the first inclination is denial, and to just say, oh, that's just wrong. That's not going to happen. And it ties the works up, and in this case, it tied the works up long enough for the whole planet to be destroyed, except for the one ship, supposedly.
And then I wondered, he had one ship, and they said there was only enough room for one of them.
Yes.
Okay. Well, his wife and son are much smaller, mass-wise and everything else than him.
Yes.
Throw in his son that weighs a few pounds to his wife's weight, so it could have sent his wife and his son.
Right.
Well, looking at that capsule, basically the only thing that was going to fit in that thing is a dog or a baby. It was tiny.
Yeah. Yes. Well, and they have said that before, Jim, where in later versions of various things, maybe the television show says it, I'm not sure, where they said, no, you can go, Laura. They said, you can go and our son can go together, and there's enough space for you both to go, which would tie into what you're saying. But Laura said, I can't leave you, we'll send.
So I'll send my baby by itself out into space.
I know. I'm like, you better I mean, the other thing that they should probably stress, and the only time they've ever stressed it, I think, is in the Superman movie, is that boy, this capsule is equipped to educate, to do everything that needs to be done with this baby in order to make. Essentially, I think you'd almost have to say, for a parent to agree to this, it'd have to be like, and it'll put him in suspended animation and let him grow without it, hurting him in any way. It's not like he'll be sitting in this capsule staring at the walls for 5 years as he's traveling or something,
with nothing to eat or drink.
Yeah, exactly. And he'll be educated. I don't know. There'd be so much that it would have to encompass. It actually just would be easier if they would just send the mom with the kid and she helped, in dealing with the kid in the flight, and then maybe she dies in the crash or something. I don't know. But yeah. Because the problem is the story doesn't work if his mom arrives with him and he's got a super mom, then everything changes somewhat.
Well,
It'd be
and then
interesting.
if he's a Superman and doesn't die in the crash, or super baby and doesn't die in the crash, then she would be a superwoman, and why would she die in the crash and not him?
Exactly.
Yeah.
All that does, yeah. And then earlier versions had him land as a grown man. He doesn't. He leaves as a baby, but lands as a grown man, and doesn't have the adventures as a teenager or anything like that, and doesn't really even have. I don't even think the Kents adopt him or anything. I think I don't think it's because you read the first comic, it sort of is like he came here and just landed and became Clark Kent. I don't know, got educated in the capsule or something. I don't know what the heck happened there. But later on, they realized, oh no, it lands as a baby, gets adopted, and you get the whole thing that kind of works.
That would explain why his mother could not come with him if he grew to be a
Yes.
full-size man, and his mother was in the spaceship with him. Then that'd be an issue.
Slowly squishes her as they go. That would not be good. So anyway, but it is one of these things where it's a story that started in 1938. The origin, the beginnings of it got revisited over and over again for the radio show in 1940, for this in 1948, for the television show in 1950, throughout the comics as they're essentially rebooting the comics throughout time. So it's a story that, depending on where you're reading it from or where you're watching it, it changes over time. So yeah. I have been sharing with you. One of the reasons I brought this is that I have been sharing with viewers or listeners the radio shows. They'd have like a 6-episode arc usually, and it was done 15 minutes like a day. So you end up with like about an hour's worth. So I collect the whole set and then have an intro that I do an intro on it. And people are liking those, and they're very enjoyable, actually. It works very well as a radio show. What I didn't realize that I think is interesting in some ways is Bud Collyer plays Superman. I'm drawing a blank on the woman who plays Lois Lane, and then Jimmy Olsen. The actors that play all three of them are in the radio show, and then in the movies that are made in 1940, the cartoons that are made in 1940, there's about 12 cartoons or something like that, maybe more. They do those roles as well, which is great. Then this serial happens, then the TV show happens, and then in 1966, they create a cartoon for television that we've all probably watched when we were little kids, because it got, re-aired, over and over again. And they brought back Jimmy Olsen, Lois Lane, Superman, all from the original radio show to read. So when we hear the voice of Superman in the cartoons that we grew up with before Super Friends, right, then we're hearing Bud Collyer, the original Superman. And you can he does such a great job with that voice that it really works. And unfortunately, I think he did all the 66 through 69, and then in 69 he died, and so then he couldn't. Otherwise, he might have been doing Super Friends and everything else. I don't know.
Did he jump out of the building because he thought he could fly?
He did not.
like George Reeves.
Well, I think they all did that. And yeah, we'll talk more, but we'll have to talk at some point about George Reeves and the way that he died, and whether it was suicide or murder. I don't know. It's one of these cases that lives on. Anyway, maybe we'll let him go at that. I don't know. But anything else we wanted to say about Superman, about this serial or anything? I am impressed that you both liked it. So
Are we going to go on to, because I found it on internet database, and actually you can watch all 15 on there and download them if you want.
I have them all.
We're gonna do.
I originally thought you guys would abandon ship after the first one. I just figured I'll be lucky to get this first one out.
I think
Let's do the second one and then
Yeah,
see how it goes.
I'm
We'll do it like we did Lower Decks, where we'd kind of go, and at some point, if it's starting to peter out and the stories are kind of getting repetitious or something, then we'll probably stop. But
episode 2 is even more epic, and I already watched it last night.
you like 2?
Yeah.
Well,
The
good.
other thing I noticed though is you got, and this is like I think the 40s and 50s thing. Women didn't wear pants, so you got Lois in high heels and a skirt, doing all this dangerous stuff. It's rather interesting.
Well, I was going to say the male audience would be happy if the women didn't wear pants, probably, but it would be strange for a Superman series with bottomless women. But you know, that's strange.
Well, but the thing is, Bob, that's kind of how it was during that times anyway.
I know.
I mean, the women, they wore dress
I know
and
that.
the high heels, and they went and they did all of the stuff in the dress and the high heels, and it was normal.
Well, it was
I know.
Lois's
It's
look
just weird.
for years. She had the kind of the purple little hat, and then the purple jacket, and then the purple short
'Cause
skirt,
it's-
the skirt sort of thing.
Episode 2, she's doing some more like, I won't give it away, off-roading,
Okay,
and
which is strange to see somebody do in a skirt.
But Jim's right. That's the way it was then. Women didn't
Yeah.
wear pants. I guess it was like just like not kosher for women to have pants. So yeah, it's interesting. Anyway,
I mean, they were probably starting to it at that point, with from World War II and stuff, working in factories and things like that. They were wearing coveralls and more, types. They're not going to go and build an airplane wearing a dress, kind of thing. So it was probably coming and being, becoming more popular maybe during that time, I would think.
Yeah.
But even in the 50s, though, I mean, women were, mostly in dresses and stuff, really. So
yeah.
Oh, and one reminder, folks, if you come to our Spotify channel and watch this on Spotify, you will see the actual video. If you're listening anywhere else, of course, you'll just be listening to the serial, which is fine. Like I said, it's based on the radio show, so it probably carries over pretty well without seeing the visuals, but I think coming to watch it would be good. And then I'll probably throw it up on my YouTube channel too. And you can always find my YouTube stuff by just typing in @BuckBenny and it'll show up. So anyway, thanks, gentlemen. And we'll try another episode and see how that goes.
yeah, sounds good.
I enjoyed this. What else? I'm just trying to think if there's anything else I wanted us to cover in this thing. Did you think the story progression, I mean, showing Krypton and then having him on Earth, did you think it covered everything pretty well for 20 minutes? I was pretty impressed with how much story it got in 20 minutes.
Yeah. And there's even the cliffhanger set up in that 20 minutes too.
Yeah. Right. So that's some efficient
I
writing.
mean,
Right?
it would be interesting to see, because now, we're so familiar with the character and Lois Lane, what it would be like if we didn't know those characters. Because they don't spend a lot of time on his parents or him or anything really.
No. They get, I mean, they're trying to fit in 20 minutes, so it's like they got to go quick, but it doesn't. But the pace feels okay. It doesn't feel like oh, I would spend more time with these people. I liked him as the young Clark Kent. I would have spent more scenes on that. But on the other hand, they covered enough ground that it was okay, and so it all kind of worked out. So yeah. Anyway, enjoy, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
We were told we met before this, and then I knew it from the first kiss. And all that I felt when you touched me again, feeling you through me, don't want this to end, I still focus. Left me soulless, blinded by the light. Twin flames once, but now I'm addicted. I left my mark on you with my lipstick. The fear of me losing you not in my bed. I wake in the night all alone and my headlights to focus. Left me breathless, blinded by the light. Twin flames, two hearts can burn out in any second. And twin flames, two hearts can implode, leaving me unconcerned. Oh, oh, oh. Twin flames, two hearts on fire, we're burning together. Burning together. Burning together. Twin flames, two hearts on fire, we're burning together.
Well, hello again. This is Buck Benny speaking. I'm joined by Jim and Bob, and we're here to talk about Star Trek history, I suppose. This is the musical episode, Subspace Rhapsody. No surprise here. I knew going in that I would be the easiest one to please. I like musicals generally speaking, and I'm more open to them trying crazy things. So I loved it. I thought it was a great episode. A lot of fun. But there are folks certainly in fandom of Star Trek that absolutely detest this episode and hate it. Other people love it. There's not too many in-betweens, I think. Probably Jim and Bob are a little in between on that. I'm not sure. And so we'll go around and we'll find out about it. It had 10 original songs in the episode. I'd say probably, to me, 3 or 4 more kind of standout songs that were really quite good. And then there were a couple that I'm just not as enthralled with. The singing, as far as the crew members go, certain ones just are amazing singers. At least they used auto-tune or whatever they did to help other people out, so nobody sounded terrible. So anyway, let's go over to Jim. And Jim, what were your kind of thought? Well, let's go with, what were you thinking like before, when you knew this was going to be a musical? Kind of what were your presumptions about the episode, what it was going to be like, or that whether you thought you were inclined to like it or not? And then when you actually watched the episode, did that change at all?
I did not have very high hopes about it going
Right.
into it. A musical Star Trek really is probably not my cup of tea,
Right.
what I would like to see. So yeah, so I had very low expectations going into it. I was pretty sure I was going to.
Did it live up to those low expectations?
No, it exceeded them. I actually enjoyed it.
Oh, good.
I actually enjoyed it. It was kind of fun and somewhat lighthearted, and was kind of different. So I actually enjoyed it much more than I thought I was going to.
Oh, good. I myself had thought, okay, this is one of those things that's either going to crash and burn, or it's going to be a home run. It's probably not going to be somewhere in between. And to me, it wasn't. To me, it was pretty close to a home run. I wouldn't say it was the best episode of the series or anything, but it was one of the better episodes, probably in my top 5.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that. I enjoyed it.
You enjoyed it a lot. So both this episode
amazingly,
and the Lower Decks crossover both kind of surprised you. you were expecting both of them, that they
Yeah, but I like this one better than the Lower Decks crossover.
Sure.
I think, this one seemed better.
Okay, excellent. Bob, what were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, my expectations were low too, but I actually did enjoy the episode. I think it was sort of a vehicle to, now their emotions are really raw, to get some things off the table, both the Yulon relationship with Kirk and Spock and Nurse Chapel. They use that sort of the fact that they're more raw when they're singing to sort of wrap that up. Maybe not in a way I liked. I was hoping that Spock um, and Chapel would keep going. And also that the songwriting was actually pretty good. And the singing, even, I was really expecting Mbanga to really be able to sing, but I think you're probably right. They did some auto tune probably. I also wondered, did they sing them like offline, like in a studio, and then like just dub them over and lip sync, or were they actually singing when they were? Because a lot of times they're moving around, which is really hard to get a nice clean recording.
Right.
No, I enjoyed it. Started to, I think, drag a little bit towards the end, but yeah, overall I was I was happy with the episode.
Right. I'm not sure. I'd have to do some more figuring out to see whether what we hear in the episode was them actually performing it essentially live, or whether it was recorded first. It would seem more likely that it was recorded first and they were kind of lip syncing to it. But the indications I've gotten are that wasn't the case. It's so tricky. I mean, there's things like, if you watch like American Idol or whatever, they'll sing the song live, but then if you go to purchase the song like on a streaming service or whatever, it'll be one that they recorded in a studio instead of the live version from American Idol. I don't know if this was done the same way, where, because to me, I've listened to the soundtrack a few times, and I'd have to compare them back to back, but it seems like it's slightly different than what we hear in the episode. So that makes me think that they recorded the soundtrack album and then in the episode tried to just do it kind of live. I know that they have they say they have microphones built in under their badges and things to mic them better. And that could move with them, of course. So I don't know.
I find it hard to believe that they were recording it live as they were doing it. I mean, it's with the music and it being so processed. I mean, I guess they could be, because they can take that audio and pretty much do whatever they want to it. I think they probably recorded it in the studio and then went there on the and did the actual show and probably played the music and they sang and did all of that kind of stuff. But they used the studio version.
Yeah.
But
it's
hard to say.
If they did, they lip synced it really well. So
well, but I mean, it's not necessarily even having to lip sync. I mean, if you play some music and I sing a song to that music, and then you play that same thing and I sing it exactly the same again, they're going to probably pretty much match up.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm pretending to sing. I'm actually singing the song.
Which, thank goodness, that's not happening. Were there any songs that stood out to you that you thought were impressive or better than some of the other ones?
Yeah, I think the later ones were better. The more big production show tune type ones, I think were better than the earlier ones where it was just just a small little thing when they were still trying to figure it out.
For me, the very first song stood out just because it was so jarring that all of a sudden Spock starts singing a song, and then everybody jumps into that song. You know, the one where they're saying all apologies and things.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah, that was. I love the ones where there's multiple of them in different places singing the song. They only did that pretty much with the finale and the first one. Other than that, it was usually just one person singing it or a duet between two people, sort of thing. So I really like that first and the last song. For me, the one with the most impressive song overall that just looked like, okay, they really thought out the choreography, they really thought out the song, the fact that there were lots of background characters around. So the most production wise, one of the most impressive songs was in the middle. That would have been the Nurse Chapel's song, where she was singing, because she's in the lounge or whatever, and they're lifting her up and turning her around and things while she's singing. And I thought that one was a little more impressive than a lot of the other songs. I was surprised with some of the characters or the actors. I knew that, like La'an, because she's a singer and has her own songs out and things, La'an was going to sound good, and she really did. I was kind of surprised they didn't use her more. She had her one showpiece song, and then really wasn't in too many of the other songs very much at all. And then certainly Uhura could just blow the top off. She was to me, the best singer of that sort of song. But then, of course, she's won Grammys for some of her work in plays and things, where and so that's pretty impressive for the soundtracks from those. And I've listened to a few of them, and she's quite the singer. So it was interesting that they saved her for the end. They really didn't use her that much until the last two numbers. Really, she had the main parts of those two numbers, and I thought they worked out really, really well. Pike's song with the other captain, his girlfriend, Captain, is it Bartell? No, something like that. Anyway, that was a fun piece, and he did a good job of acting through it. Spock was just, when he'd sing his songs, they were just incredible. The way he's of all the people on the show, to me, he was the one who could act through his song while he was singing it, and just did a brilliant job of that. La'an also could. She seemed to get very emotional during her song, and it tied in with her character really well. But Bob, did any songs stand out to you? Or
I agree with the first song with Spock. Like I said, I think it was kind of novel, especially have it to start off with Spock, who is the last person you would expect to be singing.
Yes,
certainly Nurse Chapel, that whole sequence. I think the other one, I thought, La'an was, that sequence was good too.
yeah,
Although you're right, Uhura had a really kick-ass voice for sure.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, she had, I was telling my wife, because I watched it with my wife after I watched it, and she really liked it too, because she likes musicals and things. But it's just like, she sang like everybody else sang, but then she had a whole other gear that she stepped into when she'd really turn on her voice and really have it come. I mean, that was pretty amazing, because most of them didn't have that other gear like she had. That's when you're truly a gifted singer. But like I say, I think Pike did a good job with his, making it funny and fun, and just the interchange between the two was great. So it is funny though how we've talked about how you had the Lower Decks episode that was a very light, fun episode, and I guess 2 episodes before that you had Spock turning human, which was also a funny episode and a light episode, and then you had heavy episodes in between, and then you had a heavy episode after Lower Decks with the PTSD focused episode, and then you got this one that's a musical and really light, and it looks like next week's episode is going to be really dark, from the previews and things. So I don't think you guys have seen the preview probably, but anyway,
I saw a pre-screening. I haven't
Yes,
seen it.
sure
Just
did.
proofreading.
They send out Jim his VHS copies early so he can watch
Jim
them.
gets special privileges.
Yes.
Right.
I think it's beta that they send him, and it
Yeah,
might
and
be a
all I
laser
got,
disc.
is VHS, and so the tape just sits on the counter.
Well, they send Bob and I Viewmasters, and we just look through them. We look at the 10 pictures or whatever. They can't fit too many words in there telling you what's going on in the picture, but it helps.
You sit there and do the voices. I mean,
Yeah.
you do the voices in your head.
No, but yeah, this episode, the other thing I want to point out with this episode is I thought the setup at the beginning, it was so light. It was like, and it should be. It was like, okay, don't knock yourselves out trying to explain this overly much. Give it a little bit of technical reason that is happening, which they did, then go right into it. I mean, because it went into it fast. It went into it. They were into the musical before the opening credits even came up, right? And so, and then I don't know if you guys watched the credits or not this time, but they changed them again. So they had singers singing in the background along with Star Trek
They also changed the intro too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The intro.
Singing in the intro with the ship, the ship.
Yeah, and that was great. And then the at the very end, they also over the closing credits had a instrumental version of a few of the song pieces. There's and I'll just give my listeners a tip that they can do that I did. They can either, and I'll put in the show notes now that I think about it, I'll put in a link to on Spotify. They have the soundtrack album. And I've been playing around with it and things. And I've been putting on Christina Chong's singles that she has out at the end of the album. So you can listen to those. They tie in kind of to the album anyway. But the one thing I didn't love how the album plays. And then at the end, you have the closing credits song, because it's kind of jarring where they put that a little bit. And I just decided, I was listening to it and decided, well, that's basically the Nurse Chapel song is what it is. And so I took it and I moved it and I dropped it after Nurse Chapel's song just to see what would happen. And so I'm playing it and you can't tell where Nurse Chapel's song stops and this instrumental song starts, because she says, the last thing she does is she like says a line without any musical background. It's just her saying the line. So it actually goes right into, from there, picks up right at the tempo that's right to continue the song. So it's like having an extended version of her song, which I like. And it gives a little bit of breathing room, because I didn't like in the episode itself, after she's done with her song, you get a little dialogue, and then Spock sings his song, which is a answer to hers, I'm the X, which I like that song. But in the soundtrack album, they're butted up right next to each other, and it seems really abrupt, the change from her song over to Spock's song. So this gives it a little bit of breathing room, because you have her song and then you have this instrumental thing, and then it dovetails into his song. So I think it's an improvement. So like I say, go into the show notes and get my playlist for it, or just take your playlist and move it up there and see what you think. Anyway, and then what else was I going to say about the episode? I don't know. I was really impressed how they. What was that?
Well, yeah, I mean, we got to talk about what actually happened in the episode, as opposed to to the storyline, not just what.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to get into, is the fact that I love the fact that the songs progressed everybody's individual stories. That was a cool thing I was hoping they would do, but I didn't know if they would. I didn't know if we were going to just get show tunes or what was going to go on. So I was really impressed with that. Probably the most depressing one was, like we say, Nurse Chapel getting a job to go work with Dr. Corby, that we know she eventually becomes her fiance, and is going to be leaving the ship for a while. they made it be 3 months, so I think she's going to be back for the 3rd season, and they'll just say that she went off and did that, right? But she essentially dumps Spock within her song and really breaks Spock's heart, which is hard to see. Like we were saying before we were on air, I kind of wish they would have stayed together for a whole season. They could have done the same thing, but had her break up with him at the end of next season instead of just being together with him for like an episode. Anyway, but then we can go into some of the other ones. What were some of the other pieces that you wanted to bring out, Jim, of the episode?
Well, they kind of they put an end to the Lon Kirk
Right.
thing where, you know, she comes clean on that, and you know, and then he's like, it's like, well, yeah, you know, but I've got this girlfriend, you know, Carol or whatever her name is, you know,
Right.
on Starbase One, that, you know, she's I did he say that? I seem to remember, I thought he said something about she was pregnant or
He did.
something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And when he said that, I thought to myself, is he supposed to know that?
Yeah, that's what I was
his kid a
wondering.
surprise? But no, then I went and checked, and no, he did know. He said when he has in the future in Wrath of Khan, when he meets up with Carol again, and he sees David for the first time, theoretically, or anyway, first time in a long time, he says, I did what you said. I stayed away. You know, it's not like I didn't think it'd be the best choice or whatever, but you wanted me to do that, and I respected you, and you wanted to raise him on your own, and so you did. And he wasn't delighted with that. So he did know that David
Okay.
existed.
Yeah,
So-
for some reason I was always under the impression that it was a surprise. You know, it's like, oh, you know, kind of like the Kirk or like
yeah,
the
exactly.
Picard
That's
thing.
why I thought it was echoes to the Picard episode where Picard finds out about his son, and he never knew his son even existed. But the it's different, and so if you go back and watch it, because he definitely knew about him but stayed away. And I don't know when they'll build that in, or if they will. Again, I mean, Kirk being in this episode, he did a fine job. He's doing a fine job in the episode they put him in. I just think it's a little weird having him be, you know, have more lines than I think we've said it before, that he's actually had a bigger part than Anson Mount has had probably this season. Certainly a bigger part than, say, Erica or a lot of the other cast members. So I don't know. I mean, I think they need to dial it back some and not use him quite as much as they are. I don't know.
Well, now that they've kind of ended the La'an sequence with him, you know, there'd probably be less of a reason for him to be around.
Right. And he did a nice job in this musical episode. I mean, he had decent parts in a number of the numbers. He got to do a kind of a waltzing thing with with Una.
Yeah.
I was surprised. Una, actually, they feature. We've been complaining all year about how they don't feature her enough, and they featured her in this episode in more numbers than most other folks. She's known for her singing and things, so it makes sense. Though I thought, you know, La'an, I would have featured La'an and Uhura more myself, because I think their voices are even better. But and we got a little more background on her character, or at least more of her dealing with the issues she has. The issue she has is she stuffs her feelings and keeps secrets and that sort of thing. You know, hiding the whole fact that she was Illyrian and so forth. And now she says she's not going to do that as much, and she's trying to be more open and communicate better with the crew, and that she thinks Kirk should do that and so forth. You know, which is good. Jim just wants to be done with her. I know that. Bob and I want her featured more. But who knows? Bob, what were your feelings? Did you feel like you had a little more Una presence or not? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, she was I mean, you guys pretty much covered the big sort of things that happened in terms of character development. But she definitely, I mean, she was in the scene with Lon where she's giving her advice, and she's in the scene with Kirk, and it seems like she was in another one also.
Those were the two biggies, I think.
Yeah. So
other than she was in the first number a decent amount, talking about how the ship was okay and everything. But yeah,
I think,
well, I think everybody was in that one.
Yeah.
I think that she's got again a lot of similarities with
Lon.
Lon. Yeah, I mean their sort of musicals are sort of similar in terms of their personality. They both seem to like try to,
but they're kind of playing on that, which is good. I mean, they're putting them together. She's kind of the mentor for Lon, and they have some of this, like I say, similar issues, and so she would be a good mentor for that.
Yeah.
Kind of interesting they put her in the position of being a mentor for Kirk in this episode. It's good they had that one musical number together, because he spends most of the time with La'an. He's not getting her mentorship very much in that from Una, in that they're not together very much, but they were hit with this emergency of the singing emergency, so they had to kind of deal with that. As far as how they deal with the reason they're singing, that they've affected this thing, and it's affecting them to where they have to sing some of the times, and then they eventually work their way out of it. I thought the working way out of it was a good creative way to do that, saying essentially we have to have a big closing number so that we're all singing together, because that will short circuit this thing if we all sing together bigger and better. It was cheesy. I mean, the whole thing, you kind of go, yeah, okay, fine, I guess, or whatever. But it does work within the episode. It does make it create a more a reason to have the musical episode, and it was just enough that I was able to suspend my disbelief and just go, okay, I'll just roll with this. So
I was kind of doing that for the whole episode, just enjoying it for what it was. I thought it was kind of funny, the Klingons too, when they switched over to the Klingons on their bridge. It was like like a hip hop video or something. Yes. It seemed like a hip hop video, and it's like, okay, that's different. It was the songs and the way it was done was completely different than the way the rest of the songs with the Enterprise crew was done. It was like, it's like, okay, so the Klingons are a bunch of hip hop artists.
And some people were mad they didn't do Klingon opera, because they're known for their opera from Deep Space Nine and so forth. But I'm glad they didn't. I'm glad they went with the K-pop instead, sort of thing. Now,
no, it wasn't K-pop. It was hip hop.
Yeah, actually, everybody else is saying K-pop, but I think Jim's just behind the times.
It was like Korean music.
Do you think it was like more like Korean?
What?
Yeah.
I got more of a hip hop type of a.
Yeah, me too.
Do either of you know who the Klingon commander was?
Worf.
Close. It was a revisiting of our lost character that we lost last season. Hemmer was back, and that was Hemmer that was playing the lead Klingon. I think that's why he had to wear the eye patch, probably, because he's got the one eye that's a little different. And so I think they might think, okay, that would give it away too much with who he was. So, yeah.
Wow.
That's pretty cool. He did a good job. I didn't strike me as Hemmer at all. So that was excellent. I'm surprised, being as they had him on there, that they wouldn't use him somehow as Hemmer, with appearing in because La'an sort of had a flashback to her and Kirk together in a way that they weren't together then, like during her song. And so they could have done one with Uhura, where she was remembering back to Hemmer, and have Hemmer sing with her or something would have been kind of cute too. But maybe they thought having him on as Hemmer and as a Klingon would be pushing it. I don't know. So.
Yeah, and the Hemmer, or the I was a little confused with the Kirk and La'an one when they were like having her memories or whatever,
Right.
flashback to stuff. But that wasn't in the other episode, right? And then
No.
I could have swore
Most
that
they did in the other episode was kiss the one time right
Yeah.
before he went off to die. So I think it was her fantasies of what it would have
because
been
I
like
even
with him.
I swear at one point it looked like she was pregnant in that.
Oh, I didn't see that, but
You know, it almost like it was
I'd have
like
to go back and look at it.
yeah, it was like they had some complete life together, and at one point she almost looked like she was
Could have
pregnant.
been
I mean,
just her
could-
fantasy of what if he would have still been around, sort of thing.
Yeah, but yeah, it was kind of throwing me. I'm like, wait a second, it didn't go nearly this far in the episode. So I'm
Well,
not
it
quite
was the
sure
only
remembering.
thing like that in this whole episode, where
Yeah.
everything else was in real time, dealing
Yeah,
with who was there. She's the only person who had kind of a fantasy thing going on within her song. Yeah, I'll have to go back and watch that piece again because it was just different.
yeah. The thing with Nurse Chapel and Spock, you know, so now Nurse Chapel's going to go over. She's going to meet Corby or
Yeah.
Corbinite maneuver guy
Yes.
or whatever. But so she's going to go meet him. Going to be there for a few months. So I guess the question is she going to come back engaged, or is she going to come back and
With
then
how fast this show has been moving on this kind of stuff, it would seem like she'll come back engaged. If I was writing it, she'd come back and say, "Oh my gosh," I'd just be talking about him and be like, "Boy, it seems like you're really into him," or whatever, and then maybe have him pop up kind of like Kirk does a few times during the season, and then they get engaged at some point, right?
Yeah. So I'm curious to see how they're going to work that. You know, and I think that's part of the reason that they had to cut off her and Spock's relationship so quickly, is because if they let that drag out for a long time, then her getting into the next relationship and getting engaged and stuff like that, they would probably have to drag that out longer too. They could, you know, because she's just coming off this really long involved relationship with Spock, and then now she goes over and immediately within a month or two being there falls for some other guy.
Yeah.
You know? And so
well,
that would look
of course, this looks bad for her too, because she looks flighty in that she's always said that she sort of doesn't want a deep relationship, and then a relationship with Spock looks like it lasts just a few weeks, so it makes her look like a pretty flighty person. Now, on the other hand, a lot of people are bashing her quite a bit, or at least her character, right? But to me, a lot of it is probably ties back to the conversation she had on the Lower Decks crossover episode, where they said that Spock needed to not be all emotional, and the Spock everybody knew that did all these wonderful things in the future was the stoic sort of Spock.
You don't get that impression that's why she did this, though.
No, but
she's
they
not looking
laid the
bad for
seeds
Spock.
for that in that episode, that she definitely looked like she was gonna pull back. And
I know
then
she doesn't seem to have any. One thing about this episode, she has no like remorse or any sort of
Right.
feeling bad for Spock. It's all about her and her career advancement.
well, if they'd
She-
wanted the character to be more loved, and they wanted to explain it more, it would have been very simple to give her a second song where she, very much like La'an's song, maybe she's in her quarters or something singing about how it's hard to let him go, but she knows that he needs to be she needs to be logical about it, and he's a logical person and needs to be allowed to pursue that, versus her relationship's going to destroy his future or something to that effect. And I think that would have made us empathize with her a lot more. The fact that now it's just like speculation. We don't know why she just seems pretty heartless in that, oh, I got this position, I'm out of here, we're done. You know, that's.
And she also, there's a scene right at the end where she's smiling and Spock and her come together, and he like kind of, you know, not shoves her off, but turns the other way, and she smiles. she has just a fraction of a second where she seems a little upset,
Yes.
and then she starts smiling like, "Oh, it's no big deal." I'm like, I'm already over it.
Right.
So
That's
See, and to
because
me, she was smiling, saying, "This is going to work. He's going to become more logical, like he's supposed to." But
yeah, it's not what I got out of it. She
you
just
know it's because she's a 304, and my guess, it has to do with her head being too small for her body.
okay, all right. Anyway, what else do we get out of this episode? Oh, I had a question. Her song, she sings about how her parents and her brother died tragically. And it wasn't the first we've heard that. We've heard that before at some point. I'm just trying to remember where we've heard it before. Was it first season and that episode that focused on her?
Yeah,
It came up.
yeah,
Okay.
because when the one where she was invited to the captain's thing and she had there and stuff, it was during that episode that they
Yeah.
talked about her past and her history and stuff, I think.
Yeah. I'd forgotten that piece. And then, so for me, when I heard it in the song, it was kind of jarring. I was like, do we know that? I think we know that. Anyway. Yeah, there was that. And then, like you say, the Kirk piece, yeah, whether or not Kirk knows about him having a son or doesn't know about him having a son, that kind of threw me too, and I had to look it up and figure it out. But anyway.
Yeah, because the Uhura one, I mean, in the first one, she's saying she doesn't know what she wants to do and stuff, and
Yes.
she was talking about her family and stuff, and the captain's, saying, "Oh, you can make a life of this and do this," and
yeah, and it's interesting because she's the one that connects the whole ship together and things. They say that in her own song, and then in the big finale too, she's got the lead part of that. And it's a nice piece for her character. I think that was the whole thing. I mean, there was more growth that occurred with the various characters, or at least if not growth, character movement through the songs than I ever expected them to have. They got enough, I think, out of this episode. They got a number of episodes worth of sort of movement for different characters, and that was probably a good thing, because some of the storylines seemed like they were getting a little long, and like you say, Kirk and Lon can probably at this point move on. They're done for a while anyway. And Spock.
well, yeah, and in order to, the amount of time, if they were to do it in a normal episode to resolve those things, I think would take much more time.
Yeah. Yes, that's what I'm saying.
They can do it very quickly in just a song where people's emotions are going, and so then, it's like, okay, boom, in 2 minutes we just resolve that issue, and instead of having to spend 20 minutes of some other episode to do it, we just did it in 2 minutes. And
yeah,
so it makes,
and they did that with a number of characters. I wouldn't be surprised if they wrote one piece and were like, hey, that really let us do some character development. We've got a long way. Let's do that with somebody else. Let's do it with someone. So they end up doing a lot of the characters. I'm not sure.
But, yeah, I wonder if they decided, with having several of the cast members having, somewhat success or being doing well with singing and stuff, that just made them think about doing a musical episode.
Yeah,
it's like, because it's like, oh, this person and this person and this person, have done a lot of singing and stuff like that. It's like, hey, we could do a musical episode, because we got all these cast members that have actually been involved in singing stuff. I mean, a lot of
Erica said that the actress said that she'd done a decent amount of musical theater and things, though they didn't feature her much. She that's another thing fans are kind of upset at. She's essentially saying that she flies the ship, which is her underlying thing always, that she flies the ship. But it gets to be like, okay, is there more to this character or not?
I mean, I imagine most of the time, if you go into any kind of a acting type situation, you're going to probably find a lot of the people that also, they taking dance lessons and they've
Yeah.
taken singing
Yeah,
lessons.
you
You
know,
know, it's kind of that thing that always, you know, the actors take the dancing and the singing and those kinds of things as well.
Yeah, definitely. Though I do think it was that also. Christina Chong, who plays La'an, has been pushing on all the writers and everybody for an episode like this for the entire first season. She was pushing them, and then at the very end of the first season, she met with I think it's Akiva, isn't it, that runs the thing sort of, and he said you don't need to push anymore. We're doing it. We're creating a musical episode. So she's like, oh, and so she was just delighted that they decided to do that. So that's good. Anyway, and then what else was I going to say?
ratings.
I've got a prediction about next week's episode. It looks like a big, brutal episode with a lot of things going on. I'm going to predict that I think it's going to be a cliffhanger, and it's going to tie into the third season. Because I was thinking about it, I was going, okay, if they didn't do a cliffhanger now, then you're doing it between the third and fourth season. Who knows if you're going to get a fourth season? I think, but by the second season, they knew they were getting a third. So I think I think they're going to do it this season. And you can say the episodes are meant to stand alone, but every Star Trek series has had a two-part episode. Even TOS had the Menagerie that was a two-part episode. So I think they can make an argument it's okay.
You saw the preview, so you saw the previews. That ruins your prediction because you're not going off of pure future.
Yes.
Yeah, kind of when you see in the previews, it's kind of cheating in making a prediction. I'm going to predict what episode 8 is going to be like.
I saw the preview essentially shows just the very beginning, like 2 minutes of the episode. So
I like how last week you predicted that they were going to have a musical this week. How you came up with that, I just do not know.
He did predict that Chapel and Spock would break up, though.
There you go. My predictions this year have been pretty accurate.
I wish they would have carried that on, but oh well.
My favorite prediction this year was the Lower Decks crossover. Was that they'd start on the cartoon side of Lower Decks and carry over into the episode, and that in an ideal world, by the end of the episode, we would see the cast of Strange New Worlds as cartoon characters, and all of that came to be. So I was like, okay, that's cool. So we shall see about my prediction of the two-part. I'm just going, okay, it looks like an action-packed episode, and I'm like, okay, they didn't usually with the action-packed episodes, they cheat a little bit by getting some of it done the episode before that, so they kind of have two episodes that sort of work together.
Yeah,
and the fact that they are just going from a musical right into this thing makes me think they might need a little extra room. So
they do a little setup on the previous one.
Yeah, I mean, they did do a setup on this one, whether you know it or not, with the very last scene with Battelle and Pike. She says, oh, we can work out our vacation later and things because they're sending me on a priority mission or something, right? And so Battelle's getting sent on a priority mission that we know about. And in the preview where they show the beginning of the episode, it shows that it looks like she's in trouble and Pike has to come in and try and help her out. So,
but he's unable to do that, so Kirk has to come in and save the day.
Yeah.
Yep.
Kirk and the Farragut. Yeah.
You know, they really should have on TOS. They really should have had a musical version. You know, you could have had
Bilbo Baggins.
Bilbo
Baggins.
You could have had Bill Shatner and Leonard Nimoy.
Those guys.
How they didn't use those guys and their unique vocal talents, I will never know.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
especially Shatner. He just
Yeah.
How they could just pass that up. Yeah, he sings kind of the same way he acts.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, they both kind of do. Certainly this Spock, he definitely got the singing voice out of all the Spocks. So
Yeah, we never heard man Zachary Quinto sing or even attempt it. Who knows?
I'll give you my other piece of my prediction. They have been saying all year long that we were going to get a Erica focused episode.
I thought we had
And
that one.
well, we had one that they were hinting at that it was the Erica focused episode, but a lot of folks thought, okay, it was kind of a bait and switch. It wasn't really an Erica focused episode. She, was featured a little bit more in it, but they were thinking maybe there's another one that's going to be more the Erica focused one. I think this one might be more of an Erica focus. Certainly, we have seen a scene at the beginning of this year, and I think you guys have seen it, where they showed in all the like previews for the second season, right? They showed her and Pike in a shuttlecraft, and he's going, "You got this, right?" or whatever, and she's saying, "Yeah, I can do this," and the shuttlecraft is like falling through into an atmosphere, and she has no control over it, and she's trying to control the thing. And we have not seen that scene in an episode, so I'm thinking it's pretty much got to be in this episode, this next one coming up. And if it is, she's just with it's her and Pike. I can't remember if there's anybody else on the shuttle but those two. So it might end up being an adventure that they have together, the two of them. They both have been not serviced very much this year. Pike hasn't had a whole lot to do. I mean, he's been in every episode, but he's certainly been background in a lot of episodes. And then, of course, Erica, people are always saying they want more Erica. So
I don't know if that makes it Erica Center, though, because she could just be in that scene. Who knows?
Could be very true.
We can find out next
well,
week.
And it would seem strange to me to have your season finale, be an episode that's centric around one of the lower level characters. It would seem like a strange choice to me.
Yeah. So who knows? Maybe that scene we'll never see. I don't know why. It costs a lot of money to put scenes like that together. I can't see how you would film it and then not use it.
Happens all the time. They cut all sorts of shit out.
Yeah. So we'll see. And we'll see whether my biggest step on the limb this season is saying that I think it's going to be a cliffhanger, but we shall see. And if it is, it's going to be a long time between the end of that cliffhanger and when they film the second part, because they're still on strike. This was filmed like a month after we saw the first season. So it's been a whole year or more already. And then, so it's going to end up being 2 years between the seasons or more, 2.5 years, whatever it is. So
that's pretty long. That's a pretty long break.
That is it. Yeah. Well, I mean, you look at it, you go, okay, if they started filming now, could they be ready with everything for next spring? And I don't think they could. I think it'd still be where it'd be the following fall would be there. It pretty much takes a year for them to film and get all the effects put in and everything they need to do. But they haven't even started filming it yet, and they're still on strike and everything. It really depends on how long the strike goes. If the strike goes for 6 months, then we're going to be, a year and a half, 2 years out. If the strike goes for another year, then it's a lot longer.
I'm kind of surprised they hadn't started doing it before now.
I know, so am I. You would think with how quickly they did season 1 and 2, it's like, okay, we're in good shape here. So let's start. You would think they would have started it like this summer or this last spring,
or less. It seems like they would have been working on scripts and storylines and things
Right.
like that quite a
Maybe
while
they
ago.
got-
Well, my assumption is that part's probably done. They probably have already written the scripts. They're probably ready to go, and they just need a film. But now they can't film because they probably were going to plan on doing it in the fall, filming the thing. But
or they, some shows don't get approval right away. They think, oh, we're probably going to get picked up. Maybe they didn't know they were going to get picked up, and they weren't going to spend the money.
right, I
I see
don't
some
know.
shows that are kind of in limbo for a little while the network figures out what the hell they're doing.
Yeah. Well, the network certainly is
And
in a state of flux right now with canceling Prodigy and canceling Picard
and Roddenberry could do an episode a week. What the hell's going on here?
I know, right?
I want Roddenberry back. Just kidding.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and we had that episode a week thing for like between all the series, right? For like a year. But then that quickly fell apart. Anyway.
Well, that's because they were catching up for after COVID, so they had all the stuff ready to go.
Of course, then they canceled a bunch of it. So, but anyway, we will have Lower Decks though coming out here in right about a month from now. So this, I think this series will end, and then we'll have 2 or 3 weeks, and then Lower Decks will start up, which is great. It gives Star Trek fans at least something to look forward to. But then I think we're going to hit a dry period for a while, though we also have Discovery season, the final season 5 is in the can. So, but that's not supposed to be coming out until like January.
I haven't even seen season 3.
Well, you haven't seen season 3 or 4 then probably, right? Because this is 5.
No,
he just gets-
after 2, I was like, eh.
Yeah. No, season 1 and 2 were fantastic. Season 3 and 4 haven't been my favorites or anything. So
yeah.
All right. Well, I guess we'll end it there. And hope folks enjoy this. Ready
What
Room
about our ratings?
features on. Oh, ratings. Oh, yeah.
Come on, they're waiting the whole time for
Forgetting
that.
our
That's
big
so-
part of our show. All right. So let's go with let's do the character first. Who do you think either the character got the most additions to their story, or did the best acting, or what do you want to do? I'm just gonna go for the easy way out, give this to Uhura, because I thought, one, it progressed sort of how she's seen as a central part of the ship, and how the actress was just an amazing singer and pulled off a great performance here. Who would you give it to, Bob?
I'm going to give it to Chapel, actually,
Okay.
because it's a totally new thing for her. It's not necessarily a good thing, but it is definitely a new side of her character.
Right.
That I guess we kind of saw before.
And we can't hold it against the actress that plays Chapel. That this is what's written for her, and so she did a good job.
No, totally.
doing
She's
what's
an-
written.
Yeah, who's like blaming her? She's like, it's acting, people.
Right.
Is there people out there blaming?
Yeah. There's people that are angry at the actress for the fact that her character is not going to be with Spock anymore. Some people have a little more trouble with reality and fantasy and what's written on the page and what's not, and how much control these actors have over anything. No, I think she's done a fine job playing the character. It's just this episode kind of pushed the character a little bit, and made us feel less comfortable with the character, less like we know her as well as we thought we did, right?
And
Certainly with me, I'm having it do contortions in my brain where it makes her seem sweeter than she is, and I'm going, oh, she's doing this for Spock's benefit, she's looking out for Spock, but there's nothing on the page to really back that up, other than a few hints here and there. Over to Jim. Who do you think would you give it to?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to give it with Nurse Chapel as well.
Okay. Excellent. I think it's great that you guys are giving it to Nurse Chapel, because she's like my favorite character. And I didn't give it to her this time. But I figure I don't think I've ever given it to maybe just for that one episode that she had in the first season, have I given it to Uhura before? So we'll throw it out there because she does a fine job, and man, can she sing.
You can certainly
Let's
sing.
go for a rating of the episode. I'm going to save my rating for the last because I think anyway, we'll go from there. Let's go to Jim first. Jim, what would you rate the episode?
I would give this 8.5.
Nice.
Yeah,
Way higher than I would expect it.
Yeah, I actually enjoyed it. So
yeah, good. Bob?
What about Carrie Ann and Aubrey? I give it 8.5. I thought the tangles were excellent, and your feet were always in the right place.
Okay.
Oh no, yeah, I'm gonna give it a 8.
8. Solid 8. Nice. That's
I don't know what-
better than I could have. See, to me, that's a huge win on their part to win over two skeptical. You guys were really skeptical about a musical episode, so that's really good. For me, I got to give it a 9.5. So that's before we'd ever started talking. I was going to give it a 9.5.
Wow.
Like I say, for me, I still always weigh everything on this series goes up against episode 4, season 1, the Gorn space battle episode, which I still think is their 10 episode for me. And this isn't as good as that. So I'd have to knock it down to 9.5. But they've had a lot of 9.5s. I would say this season, the ones that stand out to me, there's like 4. I mean, I think there's this episode, there's the Lower Decks crossover that really worked for me, that I rate right up here with this one. There's the Spock becoming human that I put up there right up there with this one, and then the on Kirk time travel episode I put it right up there too. So to me there were 4 that were all right in that range of 9.5 type episodes. Last season, there's really the one that was a 10. I'm trying to think of anything else that comes close. I don't think there is one. I think for me, I know this the finale. Jim loves the finale that is from last season. I was just listening to our podcast about it, and Jim said it was his favorite episode of the season. But to me, just in listening to Bob and I talk about it, the season finale from last season, where it was where they were doing a Balance of Terror, a revisiting of that. But we decided Balance of Terror was more suspenseful, was a better episode and everything, and you couldn't really live up to that. So that one doesn't, to me, get quite as high. It's like an 8 something. So yeah. So I guess they've had 5, 9.5 or above episodes. And of those 5, 4 of them were from this season and 1 being from last season. So it tells me that this season has been better than the previous season, though this one has been more, a little more choppy because it goes up and it goes down, it goes up and it goes down, depending on the week, right? So anyway. Yeah, I was saying, Jim, the only other episode that comes close to these episodes is the season finale from the previous year, because I remember you loved that episode and thought it was the best one of the series so far at that point.
Yeah.
Do you feel like anything this season has come close to that episode?
I think some have come close. I think it's overall, I think the episodes were better this season.
Yeah.
There wasn't really a clunker that, was like,
No.
I'm not really so great about that. Most of the episodes have been, worthwhile watching and enjoyable. So yeah. This season,
last season you guys had the Elysian Empire one, the kind of dress up fantasy episode that you guys weren't into.
Yeah.
And then you also had the pirate sort of episode that I don't think you guys thought was the best.
I mean, the probably the only one that really didn't resonate and didn't really care for too much this season would be the courtroom thing with number 1.
Okay.
That episode I don't think was.
Well, see, and now that you mention it, that's along my list. So I guess there's 5 9.5 or above episodes this season because I love that one. And I know you didn't like it, Jim, but I loved it. Yeah. So now, yeah, I mean, just a season full of lots of hits and few misses. So very impressive. Because they talked about going for big swings this year, and they have. And luckily, when they've done a big swing, they haven't got a strike. They've hit a home run almost every time or close to it. So
You're right.
anyway, Bob, what have you thought if you compare the two seasons? Do you think season 2 is better than 1, or?
Yeah, I think season 2 is better by quite a bit.
Yeah. Okay. I think so as well. So I mean, and we were very happy with season 1, so we're even happier with season 2. We'll see where season 3 ends up going. There's a problem when you think about, let's say, season 3, and one of your things that you're thinking that you want to see or that you're curious about
It's a musical.
what is Pike going to do with his hair in season 3?
He talked
And
about that.
Shouldn't be one of the main driving factors or something you're interested about in season.
He talked about it in the ready room.
Yeah.
We asked him why he thought his hair became a kind of a meme, and he's like, I just don't. He says, I'm not into grooming. I just show up in the makeup room, and they just do whatever they do with my hair.
Yeah.
And obviously they're doing the Johnny Bravo with him.
Right.
Like,
I would say it was way less distracting this year than last year. They toned it down. It's still standing up and everything, but it's not like ridiculous. Last season, there were a couple episodes where it was hard to get into the episode just because his hair looked so crazy. So at least they toned that piece down. But I was watching the last season, the season of Discovery where he's in it, that second season of Discovery. I was watching the first couple episodes again, and his hair is so different then. It's mostly brown, just got a little bit of gray in it. It's not spiked up like at all. And so it just gives him a completely sort of different look, but it is what it is. All right. Anything else about this episode before we move on, or are we good?
Nope.
No. Excellent. Enjoy the episode. Like I say, check in the show notes and I'll link you up to my Spotify playlist, and then we'll go from there.
It's time that you're taking from me. Lines that I'm tracing, only me that's breaking. I wonder if we are falling under. We're sinking in different cities. It's all gone wrong. Come and make your mind up. Tell me how to make it stop. So far away, tear these borderlines down. It's too late to turn around and say we've changed. No blame. Sat in the bedroom, first time. Said it was too soon. I cried, but I understood. Circles we go. The second and third we repeat what I know. It's all gone wrong. Come and make your mind up. Tell me how to make it stop. So far away, tear these borderlines down. It's too late to turn around and say